I've opened over 80 plus credit cards since 2012. From when I was a student making less than $10,000 a year to my corporate career making over $300,000. These cards have helped me do everything from building my credit to refunding me for lost items to helping me travel the world in style for free. The key though, along the way, was making sure that I was opening the right credit cards at the right time so that eventually I was able to get the top tier credit cards that were offering maximum benefit. And so in today's video, we're going over my definitive guide on what credit cards you should be opening based on your salary. And we're gonna go over 5 salary bands. Those making under $40,000, between $40,000 and $80,000, between $80,000 and $125,000, between $125,000 and $500,000, and those making over $500,000 a year. And for each salary band, we're gonna discuss the minimum credit score, the goals and objectives in that salary band, what types of cards and how many you should ideally be opening, common mistakes to avoid, and I'm gonna wrap with some of my top recommended cards for that particular salary band. And as a quick disclaimer, please keep in mind as we go through each salary band, I'm gonna discuss for you cards you'll be eligible for, but they are not mandatory for you to get. Meaning there are gonna be some folks who are in a higher salary band, but they want more basic tier cards. On the flip side, there are gonna be people who understand and know how to get the maximum value from their cards. So even though they're in a lower salary band, they can reach for higher tier cards and still make it work for them. Also, pay close attention to the higher income brackets, because just like how in life, when you get rich, you get more free things, the exact same thing happens with cards. It seems like the higher their annual fee, the more they try to pay you back. And stick around towards the end of the video because I'm gonna go over with you a card right now, one of my favorites, that's trying to, or is going to, pay you almost $1,000 a year just to hold on to it. All right, that sounds like a plan. Pop a squat, tap the little mic on, let's jump into it. The first salary band, those making under $40,000 a year. The credit score requirement. Here, limited to no credit. The goal. These are the building blocks. And there's 2 things you wanna walk away from with. The first is learning the basics of credit, meaning what is a credit score? What helps your credit score? What hurts your credit score? And what can you do about any of this? The second thing you wanna make sure you learn is the basics of a credit card. What exactly even is a credit card? Hint, it's not like a debit card, it's borrowed money. What is a minimum payment? What is a closing date? What is a due date? These are things that are gonna be so foundational when later on we talk about cars with bells and whistles, but more importantly, when you start making more money and life just starts happening, you wanna make sure you have this on lock. So really spend the time to learn that. What types of cards will we be looking at here? Namely, they're gonna be secured credit cards and student credit cards. The only distinction is with a secured credit card, typically you might give, say, $100 or $200 deposit, well then that becomes your credit limit. And so you can borrow to up to however much you put in as a deposit. Now, when you graduate from a secured credit card to an unsecured credit card, you'll get your deposit back. It doesn't matter that the credit limit is very low. The key though is taking it and learning the basics of credit and credit cards. Student credit cards typically don't have a deposit required, but they're also similarly gonna have a limited credit limit. And the maximum amount of credit cards to have at this stage, 1. Mistakes to avoid. There's really only one to call out here, and it's treating that credit card like it's cash. Because I know a lot of folks in this stage might be students, might be early, very early in a career, and they might think, hey, I got a credit limit of $300. I can spend $300. No, you can't. That's borrowing money. And if you don't have the cash, you can't put it on a card, all right? So really get tight with what is credit and what is a credit card and avoiding the mistake of treating your credit card like cash. Example credit cards. 2 that I like. 1 is gonna be the Capital One secured credit card. And this is gonna be one where you put a deposit in and that deposit is gonna be counting your credit limit. The second one is a Discover It student card. This is a really nice card in that even though it's a student card, it does give us some additional elevated cashback, though that's not relevant entirely. These are 2 cards I'd look at. Salary band 2. Those making between $40,000 to $80,000 a year. Credit score requirement. At a minimum, we're looking at 640 to 670 plus. Goals and objectives. The first is building off the foundations from that first stage. Even though you understand the ABCs, do you know the advanced techniques of credit scores? For example, did you know that if you make the majority of your payment off before your statement close date versus the due date, you can actually boost your credit score? Yes, you wanna make sure that you're taking a proactive approach and not just being a recipient. The second goal, learn about your spending habits. Where are the categories you're spending the most of money versus just willy-nilly, okay, gotta pay for that. Start thinking about, okay, I spend a decent amount in grocery or I spend a decent amount in online shopping. Whatever it is, get a clear picture and understanding. And the third goal, learn about cashback in how it works, both earning and redeeming, because the majority of the cards we're going to talk about are going to be cashback cards. And here's an advanced tip for you. You can also take your cashback credit cards, we'll talk about later, and stack it with a cashback portal. It's 100% free. And so now you can boost your cashback earnings. For example, I use a platform called Rakuten. There's others out there like Top Cashback, but with Rakuten, what I can do is take a cashback credit card, make a purchase through Rakuten, and right now Nike, I'll get an additional 9% cashback, right? So it's being able to kind of put those pieces together. In addition, right now for new users of Rakuten, you can get a $50 bonus if you spend $50. And so if you're already going to be spending this amount of money, why not just give it back for free? So as you can see, it really starts getting advanced and you start layering. Now, if you're interested in that sign-up bonus, if you're a new user to Rakuten, I do have a link in the description box down below. So what type of cards should we expect here? No annual fee cards. And the maximum amount of cards I would expect you to have here, 2. Honestly, 1 is preferred still for learning, but maximum, I would say 2. And the type of cards could be very generic cashback cards that are gonna give you 1%, 1.5%, 2% for everything, or cashback cards that are gonna give you 3% for dining, or 2% for travel. Common mistakes to avoid at this stage. Listen, in the $40,000 to $80,000 bracket, I'm assuming early in your career, recent college graduate, you get a cashback credit card. Please do not spend to save. Do not be enticed by the idea that because you have 3% cashback, you should go be spending a ton of money and making money. You're not making money. It's just a nice little kickback, if you will, for using your credit card and being smart and efficient with your spend. The real benefit in getting quote unquote paid for credit cards come in the later tiers, all right? This is still very baby steps, foundational walking. Example credit cards I recommend. The first is a card called the Citi Double Cash. This is a 2% cashback card. It is honestly one of the simplest 2% cards used because there's no annual fee. You just swipe for everything. You don't have to necessarily think about where your spend categories are. The other card I will look at in this stage is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. This card's great because it gives you 3% back for dining in drugstores as well as 1.5% cash back everywhere. So obviously if you're going out a ton, you should throw this card down. And what's great is this card gets you started in that Chase ecosystem. And ecosystem plays, again, are gonna be very important later on, but this is a good way to start that relationship with Chase. Next salary band. Those making between $80,000 to $125,000 a year. My personal take, this is the sweet spot for a lot of people, both in terms of earnings, but also cards giving enough value where you don't feel like you have to do a ton to get the max benefit. So the credit score requirement here, at a minimum, is gonna be 700, though ideally over 740. Goals and objectives. At this stage, we're now building the foundations for learning about credit card rewards. And so the first thing I wanna make sure is we have spend mastery. In the earlier salary bands, I said pay attention to where you're spending and how you can use the cards for it. Here, you need to know how you're spending and how you're using the card for it. For example, you need to know that for some credit cards, travel categories might just be flights and hotels in transit, but they don't count Airbnbs. You need to really start dialing that in at this level to get the most bang for buck from all of your card earnings. The second goal, credits 101. These credit cards are now gonna start offering you some enticing credits where you might get monthly $10 for Lyft, where you might get something from Dunkin' Donuts every single month. And so you need to start thinking about, am I already gonna use those credits? How am I gonna use those credits? And then start incorporating that and thinking about it in relation to the overall annual fee of the card. The third goal, points 101. Specifically learning about credit card points and how they can start giving you value, because this is really where the unlock is for all of us. As an example, let's say you wanted to use your points to fly to Taipei next year, and you want to do it in business class. Well, we can see here a business class flight is a little over $3,500. Instead, you could use a little over 320,000 points. Now, if you were not sure, you might think, okay, well, you know, I got points and I can redeem them as cash back, and so I don't have to pay cash, but you're leaving so much points / money on the table, because if instead of using your points like cash back, you use your points like points, you can transfer them to an airline partner and redeem them as just 75,000 points instead of over 300,000 for the exact same flight in business class. And the exact same thing applies for hotels. Let's say you went to your credit card's travel portal. You want to spend 2 nights in New York City at the Park Hyatt. You could spend over $4,100, or you could simply just redeem your points as cash back, and it would require over 400,000 points for that 2-night stay. If instead though, you took your points and you transferred it to Hyatt, that would cost you 45,000 points a night, so 90,000 points total for 2 nights, instead of over 400,000. So that's the difference between using points as cash back in points as transferable currencies, sending it to your airline or hotel partner. And similar to how when we talked about cashback credit cards, there's these cashback portals you can stack on. Well, there are travel portals that you could stack onto these travel cards. And so as an example, there's one called Rove Miles that can let you earn anywhere from as low as like 5x additional to up to 60x additional for every single dollar you spend booking hotels. This particular example, I looked at the Park Hyatt. So you can earn additional 10x Rove Miles for every single dollar you spend. That's on top of whatever your credit card is already going to give you. And the beautiful thing that I love about Rove Miles is that they offer a transferable currency that can also transfer to a flight in a hotel partner. And so there's an example right now where you can book using Lufthansa's program to fly to Europe for 88 miles on Lufthansa, which is insane. The only problem is nobody transfers to Lufthansa except Rove Miles does. And so think about this. You're taking your credit card, you put it on, you use Rove Miles, you earn the miles from your credit card, miles for Rove Miles, and then you could transfer to Lufthansa to make this booking. Now, right now, they have this public offer where anyone can get 500 miles for making a free account with Rove. I actually was able to find a way more elevated non-public offer that's giving an exclusive 1,500 miles just for making an account. So if you're interested, the link is in the description box down below. And the last goal and objective I want you guys to learn at this level is just rules around the credit card companies. For example, knowing that Chase doesn't allow you to open more than 5 cards in the last 24 months, or American Express won't let you hold more than 5 credit cards, period. These are gonna be very crucial later on in the stages when we're opening more cards, trying to get more benefit, trying to get more points. Now, what type of cards and how many should you be looking to get? Here, I would say these are the mid-tier cards, and they come with annual fees, some as low as $95, I would say no more than $325. And these cards can be airline or hotel specific if you know that you like flying and traveling with a particular airline or hotel, or my preference is they're from a bank and so they offer you those transferable currencies that have a lot more flexibility. And as for number of cards, I would say maximum here is 3. And they don't all have to be these mid-tier cards with annual fees. They can be a mix of the cashback cards plus these mid-tier cards. In fact, my sweet spot would be one card that's kind of your catch-all everything card, and maybe one card that's gonna give you more elevated earnings in particular categories that's going to then offer you transferable currencies. Common mistakes to avoid at this level. The first, not understanding there's a difference between airline miles and credit card points. Airline miles can only be used with that particular airline, let's say Delta miles. But if Delta doesn't have a good deal going to where you want to go, you're SOL. Whereas with credit card points, they can be transferred to a Delta or Air Canada or Japan Airlines, whatever the case may be, giving you way more flexibility. And so I would always value transferable currencies over vendor lock-in. The second mistake, not leveraging other people's spend. Folks, at this level, there's gonna be credit cards that's gonna give you sign-up bonuses. Sign-up bonuses are really the magic that get you a lot of points at one time. Now, let's say you have a sign-up bonus where you have to spend $4,000 in 3 months, but you're like, hey, I can't do that. Well, when you go out with friends, put your credit card down. If you go out with a friend and there's a giant group dinner, put your credit card down, Venmo everyone else, and no one really cares. You did the favor of paying for dinner, and then you are able to leverage their spend, quickly hit your sign-up bonus. And the third most common mistake is overlooking the effective annual fee. Because on paper, a credit card might charge you a $325 annual fee, but when you consider all the credits and other benefits, it actually might be way lower than that. And we're gonna discuss it in one of the recommended cards I have for you in the next section. Now let's go over 2 example cards for folks in this salary band. The first card that I would recommend is gonna be the American Express Gold. And this is my all-around eating card. So this card offers a sign-up bonus right now. And there's 2. One is publicly available, anyone can find it, where you're just gonna get 60,000 points after you spend $6,000 within the first 6 months. Not that great. However, there is a way more elevated non-public offer going as high as 100,000 points for the same amount of spend over the same time period. The only catch is you gotta be able to find a working link. Now, thankfully, since you follow me, I actually do have one in the description box down below. Feel free to check that out. And my pro tip is these all-time high offers tend to go sooner than we would like. So definitely jump on it if you're interested. The card offers you 4x on dining, 4x on groceries, hence eating out card. And as far as that effective annual fee we talked about earlier, this card does have a $325 annual fee. But remember, there's credits it's gonna offer you. So it's gonna give you a $120 Uber credit, a $120 dining credit, a $100 Resi credit, and an $84 credit to Dunkin', which, however, if I add up all of these credits, that's $424 total. And I'm paying $325 a year to have the card. And so in effect, I'm net pocketing $99 to have an all-around amazing dining card. See, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about effective annual fee, right? That's another way to think about it. Like, sure, paying over $300 for a card is crazy, but if it's giving you a ton of credits that you're gonna take advantage of, well, that makes it effectively way cheaper. In fact, this is putting money back into my pocket, which the earlier cashback cards didn't necessarily always do. I know folks who don't have Dunkin', take out the 84 Dunkin' credit, it's still effectively putting cash back into your pocket. The second card I'd recommend anyone at this level to take a look at is gonna be the Capital One Venture card. This card's very simple. You're gonna earn a sign-up bonus of 75,000 miles after you spend $4,000 within the first 3 months. Keep in mind, Capital One calls them miles, but they're points. It's just a weird naming thing they like to do. As far as earnings, this card earns 2x on everything. Very simple. An annual fee, $95. Now, there's not really that much in terms of credits to offset it, but I think that's well reasonable if you're someone, hey, you know what? I keep it simple, I get a sign-up bonus, 2x everywhere, done. The fourth salary band, those making between $125,000 to $500,000 a year. And remember I said earlier though, you don't necessarily have to be making this to get these cards. This is just necessarily where I think folks who are making in this salary band types of cards that they would look at. So credit score, minimum 740. Goals and objectives here. Here is credits mastery. Earlier we talked about learning about certain type of credits, how you can use it. Here is, are you actually using them and are you maximizing how you use them? Are you remembering to use them? Because a lot of these cards have a lot of credits, and for some people they're like, you know what, that's too much for me. I don't like it. And that's totally fine. But you don't want to be in a situation where you've got a card with a ton of credits and you're not maximizing it. Well, then you're not going to be able to get the max value that it's trying to give back to you. The second goal here is mastering the perks the credit card offers you. So we have credits, but then are you maximizing on the purchase protections? Are you maximizing on the travel protections? Are you maximizing on the overall travel benefits, such as getting into particular airline lounges or giving you things like global entry and clear? In the third goal here, mastering points. In the earlier salary band, we talked about understanding the difference between using your points as cashback and then transfer them. Here, you need to know them off rip. You need to know where there might be sweet spots for you. You need to know how to position yourself to get the best bang for buck for your points, whether it's transferring them to airlines, transferring them to hotels, transferring them to partner airlines to book a different airline. That is just gonna have to be automatic. Again, you're not gonna have to know this day dot, but really you want to get tight with knowing how to use your points for the maximum amount of value. What types of cards and how many should you have here? The card tier is pretty much anything over 300-400 a year, though I would say not more than 1,000. Maximum number of cards I would recommend between 3 to 5. I would say baseline 3. With the 3, I would say you got a catch-all everyday spend card. You have a card for targeted spend on certain categories, and a third card for travel perks. Maximum, I would say 5, because those other 2 slots, I imagine you might want to open a card for a particular sign-up bonus here, open a card for a particular sign-up bonus there. And as for mistakes to avoid, there's really only just one, and that is wrong card fit. A lot of the cards in this salary band are gonna be travel specific, but if you don't travel, do not feel as if you have to get it. Just because your friend is talking about the new Chase Reserve card and your other friend's talking about the Venture X and you're like, oh, well, you know, I make good money, maybe I should get the card. Folks, if you don't travel and you don't use those cards in those ways, do not get the cards, right? It's all about the right cards for your right fit. I just recommend those cards for people in this range because people in this salary range tend to want to travel and have some of those more elevated perks. Now let's talk about card recommendations at this tier. We've got 2. The first is the American Express Platinum. Similar to the Gold, there's a publicly available sign-up bonus where you'll get just 80,000 points for spending 12 grand over 6 months. However, there's a way more elevated non-public offer giving you as high as 175,000 points for the same amount of spend over the same time period. And if you're interested, I actually do have a working link in the description box down below. Feel free to check that out. This card, what I love most is it is travel centric. And if you travel and take advantage of the credits, will put well over $1,000 back into your pocket. So it has a hefty annual fee. $895. However, there's a ton of credits that they have offered you. A $400 Resi credit, a $300 digital entertainment credit, a $200 credit to Uber. And from a math perspective, that'll put some amount of money back into your pocket. But don't forget, there's also a $300 Lululemon credit, a $300 Equinox credit, a $200 Oura Ring credit, as well as a $600 hotel credit. You stack all those up, again, you're in this salary band range, you are someone who's gonna take advantage of these perks, you are gonna get well over $1,000 put back into your pocket, which is absolutely just insane to me. Not to mention, this card has insane travel perks. You get access to American Express Centurion lounges, some of the best airport lounges domestically. You also get access to Delta lounges, Lufthansa lounges. At the end of the day, this card goes above and beyond, especially for folks who are travel heavy. Another card I'd recommend here is the Bilt Palladium. So this card, quite simply, gives you 50,000 points as a sign-up bonus for spending 4K in 3 months. In addition, it's a 2x catch-all everywhere card, and you can earn points for paying your rent and mortgage. Now, the mechanism of it gets a little complex, but by using this card more, you're gonna be able to earn more points from rent and mortgage, which no other credit card offers you. In addition, it covers the transaction fee. So if you're someone who has, especially like me, with a mortgage, I'm jumping on this card yesterday. In the 5th salary band, those making over $500,000 a year. Credit score requirement, minimum 740 plus. What are the goals and objectives here? One, it's the flex. You make a ton of money. If you get these cards, you make a ton of money or you have a ton of money. The other goal, I guess, is to spend but not go broke here. As for card tiers, these are the invite-only card tiers, meaning you can't just go willy-nilly get them. You have to be extended an invitation from one of the large banks. Any mistakes to avoid here? Honestly, if you're here, hi, hello, my name's John. I don't know, maybe the only mistake is spending money you don't have, but if you're able to get these cards, I feel like you have a ton of money. In the 2 example cards we have here are gonna be the American Express Black Card and the JP Morgan Reserve. So we'll talk about the JP Morgan Reserve first. This card is actually very similar to the Chase Sapphire Reserve as far as features, benefits, annual fee. The one thing is, to get this card, you need to have $10 million invested with JP Morgan. So if you've got $10 million, you're good to go. The other card is the American Express Black Card. This card has a $10,000 initiation fee and a $5,000 annual fee. And the reason that I'd say someone making over 500K has a good shot at it is that this annual fee of $5,000 is about 1% of your take home if you're making just 500K. And I would say, you shouldn't be paying more than 1% of your salary for an annual fee on a credit card, all right? It's literally saying, hey, I wanna spend money to show you that I can spend more money. And to get the American Express Black Card, literally it's spending $250,000, if not more a year. So you make 500K, let's say 40% goes off the taxes, you have 300K. If you're spending 300K on an American Express card, you might get invited, you might not. And that's why I say 500K plus salary band. I imagine most people here are making well north of that. Now, as for my take on this salary band, folks, this is very aspirational. Like, if you make over 500K and or if you progress to this salary band, go off. Would I say you should come here though and then really want to get a Black Card or the JP Morgan Reserve? Not necessarily. Those cards don't offer that much more tangible benefit. It truly is a flex for the sake of flexing, if that's what you're about. However, I'd wager there's a lot of folks in this salary band who are getting the mid-tier cards, the cashback cards. I mean, heck, I know a friend making well north of $500,000 a year. They're like, you know what? I just want cashback. I want 2% cashback. I don't want to think about it. Fair enough. Your time is money. And for you to come in and do the points and the transfer, that probably not worth it. Folks, this has been the video. Let me know, what are your thoughts? What salary band are you in? Do these salary bands kind of make sense for the respective cards? Are you in a lower salary band but getting higher tier cards? Are you in a higher salary band getting lower tier cards, or kind of does it fit? And as always, if you're interested in any of the offers I talked about today, feel free to check them out. They're all in the description box down below. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.